Hi, it's Dr. Nicole from Shy Tiger. Let's talk about how to check your dog's pulse rate and breathing rate. So these are really good skills to have as pet owners because it really helps you to communicate with your vet where your pet's at, if they're unwell, and it helps us to determine how unwell they really are. So Rhiannon's going to give us a hand here. The first thing to note with pulse rate is you always use your index fingers. Don't use your thumb when you're checking your dog's pulse rate because there is a little pulse in your thumb. It can get you really confused. So the pulse rate or your heart rate, I use two different ways to measure this. The first one is on the left-hand side of their chest. I'll look for the deepest part of their chest, so feel their ribs and go down. And without talking, because you won't be able to feel it, I'm trying to feel for the boom, boom of the heart. So the left side at the deepest side. If you're having trouble feeling that, often the easiest place to feel it is actually on the upper third of the thigh, and you put your index fingers on the inside of the thigh. So I'll put my two index fingers on the inside of the thigh, and you're feeling, just move your fingers around until you can feel the pulse. And then I use my thumb on the outside to secure it. So I'm just feeling for that boom, boom, again. Okay, so they're your pulses. And the other thing we'll go through is how to measure breathing rate. So if a dog's panting, that's panting, don't worry about measuring that. Otherwise, what we're doing when we're looking for breathing rate is I usually look for I'll look on the chest, she's panting right now, for a sort of a landmark on the hair that is rising and falling. If you can look on her chest here, you can see it's rising and falling. And we could probably roughly count that, but as she's panting, it's going to be a bit too tricky. But with breathing rate, rise and fall is one count. Okay, so we're either measuring pulse, heart rate, or breathing rate. And what we do when we're doing this is we count how many times you feel it or see it in 15 seconds, and you multiply it by 4. So we refer to it as a rate per minute. So you're either feeling the pulse, or you're watching the chest rise and fall and you're counting how many times it happens in 15 seconds and multiply by 4. Okay, so what do we do with what we find? The next thing we have to do is actually interpret the results, don't we? So always do this when your dog's not in a first aid situation so you know what their normal is. That's really handy. That's the first tip. Then the second tip is to keep a notebook so you can track it over time. Then what we do is we need to know our numbers. So with breathing rate, if the dog's at rest, so if they're asleep or really at rest and they have a breathing rate over 30 per minute, that's generally a cause of concern. Okay, so remember that one, 30 per minute. And then with the pulse rate, the pulse is a little bit variable with the size of the dog. The smaller the dog, the faster their resting pulse rate. But we'll just say general terms, if a dog is at rest, which is often in a first aid situation, a heart rate of over about 160 to 180 is concerned, and then under about 50 to 60 is a concern as well. That's a bit of a warning bell that we need to get onto the phone to the vet and have a chat to them about what's going on. So that's really useful information to help your vet and to help you monitor the first aid situation that you're dealing with. But if you need any clarification or anything at home, if something doesn't make sense, you're always welcome to reach out to us via email, hello@shytiger.com.au.